Hello friends, it's your favorite neighborhood nerd, Simone, and I'm here with my last week of 28 inks, 28 pens. I am done and I'm so excited about it. Yay! Nevertheless, it was a good experiment or challenge for me. I had a lot of fun using all of those samples. I made a 28 dent in my sample stash, and I'm really happy about that. But I also know that I probably won't dip my toes into one of those challenges anytime soon, because it just took a lot out of me, and every time I start one of those, I never expect it to be this challenging, because let's face it, it's only a swatch, inking up the pen, and then that's it, basically. Writing about how the pen feels in my hand. I tried this month to journal every day in my A6 Hobonichi Hone. This is a 2024. I don't really care about what year it's from. There is a date here, and that's when I write my journal entry. Several days this past week, I did not journal because I just did not have the brain space for that. So I transcribed a poem that I found on poetryfoundation.com. I don't really even have enough brain space to summarize my experience well or do a favorites or what I learned from it. I hope to do this maybe next Saturday. I'm not sure yet, but we're just going to talk about the 7 pens that I inked this very last week of February. Just as I did the other weeks. I'm going to read to you what I wrote about my first impression of the ink pairing, and then show you a writing sample of it in my ink log that I have in this Mnemosyne, Maroman Mnemosyne A4 horizontal ring notebook, where I log when I ink pens and when I unink them. So that's how this video is going to go. Let's dive in and not spend too much time on all the other stuff anymore. I also did a monthly overview on different type of paper. This is Cosmo Air Light, and I will stick this right here at the beginning of my challenge, right there. That I will probably do right after I'm done with the video. And then I have my monthly overview right here in the front, and then all of the inks and logs of what day I inked what pen after this monthly overview. So let's go back to last Saturday when I inked this Sailor Pro Gear 19, no, it's not a Pro Gear, Sailor 1911 large. It's a North American exclusive, if I'm not mistaken, and this one is the Wicked Witch of the West. It's really hard to see, but it's dark purple, and it has dark furnishings and a dark, is this ruthenium trim? I actually don't know. The black color nib in broad with Colorverse Witch by Starlight, which is a Goulet exclusive. It's a shimmer ink that I received from my friend Manda. Just to compare really quickly, I asked my friends on my Discord what would they describe this color to be, because I consider this a purple. They said it is a blue-black. I consider this a blue-black, but what I would think the difference is between those, this is a ultramarine blue-black, and this is a cyan blue-black, if that makes sense. So this is green leaning and this is red leaning. This is the warm blue-black. This is the cool blue-black. Yeah, and so maybe, no, Lamy Cliff is too blue as well. I don't really need the shimmer in this pen, in this ink, but I really like the color and I really like how this matches. So I don't know if maybe I'll go and look for a pen, an ink that is very, very similar to the base color of this. We'll see. So what I wrote, wow, I really love this ink. It is the most perfect match for this pen. It is unfortunate that this ink is a Goulet exclusive. Well, now that I think about it, does it have to have shimmer? Nope. So maybe I should be looking for a dupe without the shimmer. Think flows and behaves really well in this pen. The ink, okay, well, I cannot write, I believe. The ink flows and behaves really well in this pen. I love the pen as well, especially the color. And shocking news, I might have grown to enjoy cigar-shaped pens over flat-topped ones. What is wrong with me? Here's the pen again. I gave this ink a 10 and then I adjusted it to be, well, maybe a 9 because I don't really need this to be a shimmer ink. And I also don't think you were able to see a lot of this shimmer in the writing. So it was like, is it really a 10 if you don't really see the shimmer in writing? But I also don't think I agitated the pen before I started writing. The flow is a 10 and the pen is an absolute 10 to me. This is so just normal and boring. And I really have come to love plain single colored pens. But I also really love these types of pens. So I love all the things. This one is the Benu collaboration with Gourmet Pens, Dark Unicorn, Talisman. Oh, I always say this wrong. So it's a Benu in collaboration with Gourmet Pens, Talisman model in the Dark Unicorn colorway. I inked this up with Nagasawa Kobe number 56, Rocco Shichidanka. I snagged this off the sharing table at the San Francisco Pen Show this in 2024. Sharing table, there is a Bay Area Planners meetup and there you can de-stash some of your things, and so I snagged this sample up there. The nib in this pen is a medium stainless steel nib, Schmidt. So at first I thought I didn't like this ink, but then it reminded me so much of Vinta Tabuan Purple Sea Star that I'm now not only liking it, but considering adding a full bottle to my bottle collection. The nib, how often can I repeat myself when I say that I really like it and love the flow? Only 5 more days, lol. The pen looks amazing, but I have to admit it's not the most comfortable in my collection. So I gave the ink a 10 after I realized that it actually looks very similar to the Vinta Tabuan. The flow is great at 10 and the pen I gave a 7. For the section is just a tiny bit too narrow. The body is a tiny bit too narrow in the back where it sits in the crook of my hand. And well, I don't know why I gave it, oh, I love the design. So if I start by giving 9 this is a good pen, but it's not my most favorite pen. Then 8, 7, and then love the design would make it a 7, I think. I don't know. Oh yeah, right? I would remove 1, 4 to 8. Well, I don't know. I don't know. It's okay. I can just do this as I like it to be. Maybe I should make a list of all the pens that I rated a 7 and see then if I would compare them, like if I see them all next to each other. Maybe that's something that I could do. Leave a comment down below in which way you would want me to review this challenge. If you have an opinion on this, I would love to hear it because I'm super open. I don't really know how I would want this to look, but that is something that I just thought of it. Like, let's put all the 10s, all the 8 9s, all the 8 7s, the rankings next to each other, and then see if I would be able to discern these even more. But then also the question would be, what am I trying to do with this? Does it mean that all the pens that are on the lower end have to go? I don't know. I don't know yet, but that's something that I just thought of. So I really like this pen though. I love the colorway. So good. Next, I inked my newest acquisition from Mayfair Pens, which is this awesome. I think I named this Midnight Universe because it's this dark. It's really, really hard to discern the blank here, the dark blue blank here. It has a chatoyance and also some ripples here. I don't think. Maybe if I go outside and take it in a little video in the sunlight, I can show it better. And then this, I think, is a Dark Galaxy something. Maybe I'm gonna call it Midnight Galaxy. That would be cool. I really like it. I like, as I said earlier, I seem to not enjoy the super swirly pens, and this totally fits the bill. There's a tiny bit of swirl, but also very muted, and then a very dark blank. So I put my Monarch medium nib on here, Schon Design Monarch nib, and I didn't really have a good experience. I inked this with Diamine Seize the Night. This was an vent ink from 2021. And for some reason, this was completely misplaced here. If I look at this in rainbow coloring, I think this should have been even maybe here or even swapped around here. I'm not really sure because it's a dark purple with gold sheen, and it reminds me of an ink that I will talk about just in a second. What a weird ink. I don't remember it being so plummy when I first used it. It really darkened after I wrote with it. Let me see if I can yeah, it's very purpley, plummy, and I remember when I first used this in 2021, it was really dark right away and not as light. Weird. But it does dry to a darker color with gold sheen. The ink flows so well in the nib. I am finally loving this Monarch nib. So good. Not sure it's the best experience in this new to me Mayfair Noldor. I feel like I'm always sliding on the grip. I'm looking for my Lamy triangle grip and it's not there. We'll see how this evolves. I will be talking about this feeling that I'm not having a good grip on this pen. I always have the feeling that it wants to turn and I have to readjust constantly so that it doesn't slip through my fingers. And I have opinion on this because I'm also using this pen. I used it yesterday, and I have an opinion on why it might happen with this nib and not with this one. So we'll talk about that when we get there. I gave the ink, I gave it some number that I can't decipher, and I said then, actually, nope, 3. This is not an ink that I enjoy using. The flow is a 10 anyway. It really behaves nicely in this nib, and the pen I gave a 7. Nib and pen don't work. And then not sure what to think about the grip. On Tuesday, February 25th, I inked my Sailor Pro Gear Imperial Black with a medium nib. This also has the dark trim that I talked about earlier with the Wicked Witch of the West. I inked this up with Diamine Lavender that I received from the same person that I purchased this pen secondhand from. I seem to like these types of purples, magentas. Love this one too. It flows so well in the pen, and it is as all other Diamines, very affordable. The nib is so great, and the pen too. I'm just so happy with this pen. So good. I gave the ink a 10, I gave the flow a 10, I gave the pen a 10. I do have Waterman Tender Purple, but I think this is a type of purple that I don't have, so it's similar to the Rocco Shichidanka, but not similar enough, and I'm actually thinking of adding both of these to my ink bottle lineup. Who am I? This is the video that you were watching today, if you were watching my videos, so check it out. Benu Pixie, I really like it. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. And then I inked this new to me, and I forgot to look up the number of this pen. I will put it on the screen if I can figure it out. This is a PenBBS, maybe 365? Where did I write it down? Maybe in my old ink journal? Nope. Shoot. I need to research that. Has been piston filler JinHao 919. Nope, sorry. And it has a lovely mini Fude nib. Maybe you can see it in the close-up. It is a tiny uptick to the nib, and it makes a really lovely line variation. I inked this up with JinHao Purple that I received from my friend Pamela, and I am all for the bright purple inks, but I think this Waterman Tender Purple is very, very similar to this. I seem to really like bright magenta purples because this one is so lovely too. The flow is great in the beginning, but then I'm not sure if my writing angle changes because it gets lighter and drier by the second. This nib is so fascinating, and I'm wondering whether nibmeisters make a grind like this and what it would be called. The pen is too narrow, but has an interesting shape. Still, this is probably not a keeper pen. However, I really love this, and I am definitely going to ship this off to someone who hasn't tried a mini Fude nib. Or another thing that I might do is take off this nib and try to fit it on a Jowo nib housing. We will see. That is when I figure out whether the nib, whether it's me who makes it lighter in writing, or if this is a thing that is specifically a fault of this nib, and specifically also if nibmeisters can actually do a mini Fude nib for me on a another Jowo nib. Then I don't really have to play around with this. So the ink I gave a 10, the flow a 7. Because of this, it seems to dry up. The flow a7, I said this, and the pen a6, this is definitely not a style that I'm super attracted to. Then after I filmed my Benu Pixie video and I did some tinkering, I inked up this Benu Pixie Honey Bronze with a double broad Kaweco nib. Yes, I did some tinkering here. So I took the Kaweco nib, I removed the nib on a faulty nib that I was sent with my Benu Ambrosia. So I had a spare nib unit with a faulty nib. And so what I did was remove that nib from that housing and replaced it with this nib. There will be a snippet from my desk video where I do the experiment and you can actually watch it and see how it goes. But it worked out really well, and so I put this double broad Kaweco nib on this Benu Pixie. And I inked it with Wearingool, a taxidermied genius. Oh yeah, baby, this ink is lovely. And it reminds me very much of Tachia Umemurasaki. So as per usual, I don't need a bottle. I think Umemurasaki is a tiny bit browner. The flow is great. This Kaweco double broad nib is so good. I'm so glad I tried swapping the nib around. The Pixie is comfortable if I hold it at a very low angle. If I change it up and the angle gets a little higher, it changes. It feels as if it was going to slip out. If I move my hand higher up the barrel, I get into cap territory and easily unlock the cap. Not sure if any of this is or will be an issue, as this is the very first time I'm using the pen. So, as I suspected, and I know already, this is not like the most comfortable section. The Benu pens that house the Schmidt No. 5 nib units are very narrow, but it still felt okay. Probably not a 50 million pages pen for me to use to write. If I hold it like this, it works okay, but then if I angle it up a little and my writing angle changes up to this, it becomes more loosey-goosey because there's not a lot of weight to this pen. If I try to counteract this by moving my hand further up, because I don't really feel like if I move it up to like this, it would be problematic for me to write with it. As I described this in the cap territory, I get to here, and if you push with your thumb on the cap, it easily unlocks, and then the post is not secure anymore. And then your pen might slide out and it becomes a wobbly affair. Now, does this push down the Honey Bronze or Benu Pixie on my list of pens on how cute and tiny and amazingly adorable this pen is? No. Is it going to be a pen that I am going to use to write 15 pages with a fountain pen? Also, no. So I need to figure out where this pen has a place in my collection, or if it doesn't. This is something that, again, you also need to figure out for yourself. I still really love it. It's still super cute. I gave the ink a 10, I gave the flow a 10, and I gave the pen an 8. Size is too narrow, and the cap unlocks. Now, I'm going to show you something later too. This ink shades so nicely. Then I did an experiment. So I have this Naria, Mayfair Pens Naria model in Abigail. that I had to send back for some repairs. I just received it the other week, and I thought when it comes back early enough to ink it for February, I don't think this is going to be part of my, rotation lineup, but this would be a fun pen to fill, eyedropper it and use it as a play pen, just as I do all of my other pens that are in this pen case. My Pilot Parallels on the Wansai Minis. This would be very similar, as I've also had I'm not sure how this beak point nib feels. So I wanted to ink it up with a light ink to see how that would feel. I inked it up with Sailor Gentle Pesh that I received from my friend Laura. This is usually an ink that is illegible for me. I don't really put those inks into pens that I use in my rotation. And when I film my 8 more pen questions video, I will talk a little bit more about the different categories that I assigned my pens to, if you're curious about that. So this has a beak point nib that was ground by Matthew Chen at the San Francisco Pen Show in 2024. And here is what I have to say about this. The ink is quite light, but I think in a big nib like this one, it is quite lovely. Now the nib, I don't know. I thought you can still write with a beak nib on the regular side, but this nib is just drying up. There is no flow. However, I do seem to enjoy the beak, so the other side, more and more. I think I need a little bit more practice, but this is lovely. So let's see how this works out. The pen feels better than I remember. Maybe it's because there is such a platform nib that it won't turn and the grip feels good. So this might be a forever marriage. I gave the ink a 5. The flow, I divided into right side and wrong side. So the right side would be this one. And when I write with this, it starts out quite wet and legible, and then it feels like there is no flow towards the nib. So I might need to do some more research into the beak point nib. I might take it with me to the San Francisco Pen Show to ask Matthew Chen about this specific issue. So I gave it a 3 on the right side and I gave it a 10 on the wrong side because it's actually really lovely on the wrong side. I just don't need to get away from this expectation of being able to write with like so. I just need to use it this way all the time. So I gave the pen a 7. And the reason for that is that it had to be repaired. There is only silver shimmer in the barrel, and I would love a blank with hollow shimmer. That's on me. I didn't look closely enough when I purchased the pen. And the sharp edge that is still there, and I actually asked for it to be removed, but for some reason it wasn't. It was still sharp. So I used my own tools, and I think I got it to a place where it's okay, because I decided I'm just going to keep this and make this work for me. So what I think, let me grab another piece of paper to show you what I'm talking about when I'm writing with both of these pens. This section is definitely something to get used to, or an acquired taste, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. And I really like this section now with the smoothed out edge right here. It's not sharp anymore, so if my fingers slide down further, it doesn't cut into my fingers. Now, because this is kind of like a platform, I always know how this is not slipping away. It's not moving around like this. There is a definite edge platform. So this pen does not want to slide around in my fingers. The section is not slidey at all, right? So this is why I think this is a forever marriage, because it doesn't make me feel the way this pen feels. And so now I'm going to show you how this pen feels and why I think I'm definitely going to look for a nib that works better. This nib did not work well in here. So I'm writing with this and I feel like I'm losing control. I'm losing control. So I can't really recreate it, but it's a rounded tip. So it might want to slide around like so. And when I'm holding this, I always I'm like, ugh. And I wrote it in my review that I think if these were kind of like pinched a little bit so that my fingers would know where they should be, it would make me make my writing experience much nicer. So I don't have to always because sometimes I move from this grip like so to this grip. I don't know when and how and why, but this is what makes this just so odd, such an odd sensation for my hand, that I always have the feeling I'm not gripping this correctly. It's slipping away from me. It's like floop, floop. Here, do you see? Floop. That's what it does. And yeah, so I want to see how I feel about this with maybe even a SIG nib or a stubby nib that creates a similar, edge that needs to get to the page, and see how I feel about this when I use it with a different nib. And also, I used this pen, or I used all of these pens for just one day. And what my plan is right now is I wanted to compare the inks. I will do that after, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about my plan. So while I was using all of those pens and inks, I did have some inks that came up that I thought, I should actually try to put those inks into pens. This is lovely. Then I also have my Leonardo Momento Zero with Kintsugi that is new, that I shared a first impressions video recently. I haven't inked that pen yet. I moved my 21 karat Pro Gear nib into the Walltown Watts. I want to try this as well. So I have a list of pens I want to use next, ink bottles I want to use next here. However, my plan is currently to just keep using all of these pens, see which ones I'm drawn to. I have uninked some of the pens, and I'm not sure if there is more coming from these last 2 weeks. But on February 16th, I uninked some of the pens. So this is February 1st. I started right here. So I 1, 2, 3, 4. I have uninked. Everything else is still inked because most of these pairings worked out really nicely. So I'm gonna just continue using these pens and sharing those. Maybe do a what's left after 2 weeks of using them in March. I'm moving my studio to another room, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to write with those pens right now. But for now, my plan is to just leave them inked, see how they do when I'm getting back into using all of my pens, and then pare it down more and more and more until there is a reasonable amount of pens left that I feel comfortable inking more. because this is what's left. And there is some pens in here as well. So I do really have a lot of pens inked right now. Does not concern me. Either they will dry out, either the ink will evaporate. I will see. And that's also an experiment that we will, you know, I will then see, is this something that I can live with? Is this going to be normal? Will I always have pens inked this long? Not sure. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because I think something that has been bugging me this last year in 2024 was how I started very rigorously with expectations of I need water is the biggest thing right now. I need to do and ink my pens in a specific way. And that's lovely. And sometimes having systems in place works really well. But sometimes not having systems in place also gives you the freedom to experiment. And that's the phase that I am in right now. I just don't want to make any rules for myself. These colors look almost identical to me. So I don't see a need to purchase. JinHao purple, Watermelon tender purple is very, very similar. And I already have that in my possession, but it definitely is not. Is this bluer, less vibrant? What do you think? The Diamine lavender. I also have an ink that I don't have in my possession anymore that I want to show you, very similar. So this is Diamine Seize the Night, and I have put Lamy Violet Blackberry right here, but these look very, very similar to me. And so I did not like Lamy Violet Blackberry, which makes sense that I don't really enjoy Diamine Seize the Night either. And then I'm going to swatch a Tachia Umemurasaki next to Wearingool, a taxidermy genius. But when I'm looking at the swatch of Diamine Raspberry Rose here, I actually think that this is also a very close call to this one. So I'm going to pull that one out to show you. Yeah, so there's pros and cons for having specific systems in place. And I don't know, I'm often, because I'm filming those videos, sometimes people comment and are like, why do you have to do it that way? Why are you putting yourself into those, why are you giving yourself such hard rules and boundaries? And that got me thinking quite a bit. Sometimes I'm very offended by y'all telling me what to do and what not to do. I'm just gonna write Tachia. It's not similar, definitely not in how it goes down. When I swatched this, and I probably should write with it to show you, maybe it's not going to be as nope. I thought it was greener when it went down. So this is definitely not as similar as I had originally thought, but let me pull out Raspberry Rose. So yes, so sometimes when some of you comment and question the things that I do, the first reaction, I think that's very normal and very human, is how dare they tell me what I should and shouldn't do? the way that I'm doing it is right, and it's right for me. And then once I'm like over that first reaction, I start to think, well, why am I actually doing this in that way? Maybe they have a point. And this is very, as bad as it feels, it also makes me, yeah, okay. I'm gonna write Rasp Rose. So this is more similar to Raspberry Rose than it is to Tatsuya Umemurasaki. And because I have Raspberry Rose and because I have Tatsuya Umemurasaki, I do not need a taxidermied genius. But it does shade absolutely nicely with this double broad Kaweco nib. I'm going to show you one last thing. But I wanted to finish my train of thought with the rules and regulations that the limitations that I put on myself. So I am very consciously trying this year in 2025, and I started that in 2024 when I realized that I don't have to do it a certain way. Okay, let's check if this looks like there has been quite some evaporation, or I took out more ink than I thought I would have for sampling, because I haven't inked this much yet. This is a Monteverde, I think the Jungle collection. I got this at the San Francisco Pen Show. Chameleon ink. Now I need this right here. So I can go back because I wanted to see how this compared to Seize the Night. It's more plum. Chameleon. And so now I'm just trying to, I do still think I want some rules and regulations. I work very, very well in certain limitations. It sometimes even inspires my creativity and lets me, if you don't have all the options, this sometimes sparks creativity for me. But I'm not going to do things for years and years. Maybe I'm just going to do things for a month like this, and then the next month I'm doing something else. And that's exactly how I'm going to move forward in 2025. Just whatever floats my boat, I will see. Maybe I'll create a challenge around it, because to be honest, challenges really motivate me. Or I just do things my way. I do it my way. I didn't know that this was going to be a musical of sorts, but I have been doing all month, I have been doing this. Each line is one of the colors that I inked. And I'm very, very happy with how this A Taxidermied Genius came out. There's some that look really good on here. Better than I ever expected. The shading is lovely. And yeah, I want to make this my March title page. I just don't know if I like the ratio of this. So maybe I'm just going to go back, this way. So go back out. And then what I plan on doing, I'm going to tell you now. And I'm so scared it's not going to work out. So I have this amazing water brush that I can't find it here, that I received in my stationery selection box with this tip that looks like this. And I want to use this pen and write March on here and see how it looks. So the experiment that I did is this one. I just tried to do it really quickly. And I want to see what this looks like on here. But at the same time, I'm so scared that it's not going to work out and it's going to look hideous. What if this is too big? What if I'm not leaving enough space and then I'm squeezing the last few letters? So I think what I'm going to do is once I'm done with this that way, I will be scanning this in first, and then I'm going to try this and then scan it in again. Wish me luck. If you made it this far, I'm so thankful for you. Thank you so much for sticking around with this February challenge. Even though I thought it wasn't that big of a deal. It took quite a lot out of me, and I'm very excited it's over. I still think I learned quite a lot, and I need to take some time to think about all the things that I learned actually, so that I can share them with you in a hopefully much shorter video. If you have any questions or suggestions on what you want me to review, leave them in the comments down below. I hope to see you again soon. Until then, bye.